And it's Dan and James talking about the Villa games. Hi there, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the AVFC Faithful Podcast, joined as always by Dan and James, talking about the Villa games and talking about who? Aston Villa, that's who.
I don't think you're actually going to do it.
Of course I'll do it. I don't mind. You haven't found my lowest yet. If a 5-1 loss to Newcastle will make me start singing, then God knows what a loss against Everton will do. But we're here and we're very happy, which will be much to some people's, I guess, confusion. But I mean, we'll get onto it in a minute. But how are you today, James, on this fine Wednesday evening?
I'm all right. I'm glad to be on the pod and getting some things off my chest and talking about things and getting excited again for the next Villa game because, let's face it, come Sunday afternoon, I was already wanting to watch Villa again. The season's only just started and we've got so much to come. So, yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Oh, great. This is these are the best podcasts. Is when it sounds strange, but at least we've got a lot to talk about. But it is great. It's I find it so much easier to sit here and chat rather than tweet everything angrily. And I was in no state to give my honest opinions after Saturday night because turns out drinking a pipe for every goal you concede does not end well. But we'll delve right into it. It's no secret to anyone that we did the opposite of what I predicted and conceded more goals than we scored, resulting in a loss away at St James's Park. A weird game, wasn't it, James? It was very much, right, and I'm going to say it, a game of two halves, but not football halves, Tyrone Mings halves.
Yeah, it was, it was even less than two halves in a sense. I think, let's be honest, Newcastle were the better side for it, but I think when I watched it back, it didn't feel like a 5-1 game. But the turning point was obviously Mings being stretchered off, which was horrible. As soon as he went down and was hammering the floor, I just looked up and thought, that's not good.
No.
Well, obviously the news wasn't good, and he's going to be out for a long time, and we've got to deal with that now. But in terms of the game, I think that defense always looks a bit lost when they don't have its stalwart in the middle. And at first we did okay. Torres wasn't really challenged too much down that side, but then I think after that third goal went in, I think the whole team, the heads just dropped and they lost a lot of confidence. After that third goal, it was just sort of like they were like Newcastle were playing a conference, and I mean conference league team. So it was not great, was it, in general? But I've come away from it after watching it back and thinking about things a lot more positive than how I felt like immediately after the final whistle. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it was strange because the way the whole game went for me, everything aside, I remember, unfortunately, every single minute of it. It did feel like to me that it was just going to be a classic Villa Newcastle game. And I will go as far as to say this. I think a lot of things do change if Mings stays on the pitch, and I do think it is a bit more of a stalwart fight by the defence. But again, you could see it at the time when we were 2-1 down. We weren't fully at the races at that point anyway. Something was just a bit off anyway. It felt different. It felt lethargic. I think a lot of people said that, and it felt a bit tired. But I think that's more so because of the end of the second half, more rather than the start of the first. It's going to happen sometimes. As great as we are, a team can possibly just outfight us and just outrun us. And Newcastle did that. I mean, the clip comes across. I won't watch it, but I've seen the clip of Eddie Howe talking about outrunning Man United at home last season when they beat them 2-0. And it is no surprise because they did. They fought for everything. Tonali was pretty good. I think Joe Linton had an okay game, I guess. Isaac was meh. I'm not bitter. All of them were great, weren't they? And it was, I think Newcastle and us are we're basically on the same knife edge. But I think it kind of proved that they're just a little bit further along this at the moment, which I don't think anyone's too upset to say, and it's not a bad thing. I mean, a team that's in the Champions League being ahead of us isn't really too much of a surprise. But yeah, it's weird when you lose a game 5-1, but the word like I just don't care. After the Tyrone Mings news, I just didn't care anyway. I wanted to watch us play again straight away. You always do after a loss. You want to watch them play and fight back, and I think the players feel that way too. But yeah, there's a lot of bits I want to pick out about the game. I'd be interested to see what you think is like your. Should we say like we'll have to take the Mings bubble out of it, I think, because everyone would say that's the defining moment. But what like because you're my tactician, what would you say is the area that we lost out on the most?
The midfield, I think, and well, it wasn't really one thing, but the midfield just we always seemed overrun. Whether it was one of their defenders stepping into midfield or just one of their players dropping from the forward line, they just always had a spare man. And air press for how high our line was, I don't think it was strong enough, and that it made it so easy to pick out a ball over the top because that's where the space is behind us. You know, if you've got strong, fast runners that can exploit that, then they're going to cause you problems, and it did. And obviously that multiplied after Mings went off. But yeah, then the second half we brought Tielemans on and we went to more of a box midfield. But we seemed really narrow. I thought we might put Watkins and Diaby a bit further out towards the touchline to give us that width. But I don't think the players' heads were just in it. They just didn't seem to. I mean, they still created chances even when we were doing really bad. So you know,
Yeah.
there's that sort of foundation block that you can put down and say, you know, we could have literally just completely gave up. But yeah, I think we were tactically outwitted. I think we were out. Not out, oh, that's not a word. They had better quality on the pitch than us all around their squad. We had a few weak links, and some of them were links that are usually strong. I mean, Kamara. I don't think I've seen him have a worse game, to be honest, in
No.
terms of tracking runners, not tracking back, and being really sloppy on the ball. We know that he's still young, so you know this isn't a hammering of him. He's a top quality player that's going to be huge for us this season. But I think a lot of them still felt a bit in pre-season mode sometimes.
Yeah.
Of like, you know, if I don't track my runner or if I don't find my man or mark him, then you know it doesn't matter. That's how it sort of looked sometimes. It was that amateur in a sense, but yeah, there was quite a bit really that you could look back on and say like that needed tweaking, and it will be interesting to see how we do approach Everton, and also obviously without Mings now, you do presume that it's going to be Torres that comes in for him, but then it's how you account the rest of the defence around it, and obviously we'll go on to who else might be coming in and leaving this week anyway. So it's going to be really interesting, and Everton's a completely different game. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it at the same time as I think after any sort of loss, you do have a bit more nerves for the next game, but especially after a one where you did sort of crumble for 30 minutes. So the perfect tonic for it is a quick start on Sunday.
I think it's going to sound strange, but it's sort of the game where I'm not worried about their heads dropping because I think sometimes it's actually worse to lose a game where you're playing really well and you're done off like 1-0, for example, in the last few minutes. More of a mood killer than getting hammered because they've got a real point to prove. Now, a lot of those players have got a point to prove.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be competition coming in for a couple of players on that list. And I mean, a couple of players might have played potentially their last game for Villa on Saturday. Some rumours are to be believed. Look, it's going to sound strange. I think a real killer for us was Douglas Luiz getting booked for dissent in the fifth minute. I think that killed us off because there was 3 attacks I watched where normally you'd see Douglas Luiz going for a tackle, which he couldn't do because he was on a booking from so early. You know, he's half pulling, but then has to retract because he knows that he's going to get sent off if he does anything else, which leads me on to an interesting like sort of debate, which is where I don't know. The rules are always going to be weird the first weekend, but I'm not sure I quite like a booking for dissent in the 4th minute away from home. I feel like, you know, but I think this would all be different if we knew what the dissent was or an idea of what it was. Did he just say, "That's a foul, shut up," or did he say, "Cancel that goal, or I'll slap your big bald head"? Because I can understand one of them being a booking and the other one not. But I felt like that really hampered us because we lost a battler in midfield. McGinn out
Well,
left, strange. I've never seen that man play on the left. And after the Saturday, I don't think we really have, which is not really fair to him because again, he does so well operating either on the right or just off the striker in the middle. It's weird seeing him somewhere where I've never seen him play. Um, it's going to be a bit of a boring one, isn't it? But Leon Bailey again. I can't. I can fault mistakes. I can't fault lack of effort of tracking back. But again, he wasn't the only one, and I think he's an easy target. It's hard. The real shining lights of the game. Emi Martinez for deciding to physically assault Miguel Almiron. I quite enjoyed that. That's one of the more enjoyable moments of my life. Moussa Diaby again. Love. There's love for that man. Deep down inside, and it's very clear now that he's probably going to be one of the better signings that we've ever made. I will say that now. I think he's got a certain little extra about him.
yeah,
And again, I quite like the positions Watkins was taking up as well, and I think he was a man really hung out to dry by the lack of options coming from behind him.
yeah,
And it's just a shame that that's the way it went for him. But it's a game, and we'd be buzzing if it was 5-1 and we won it, and we'd be saying how important it is. And it's weird when we come across from it and we say, "Oh, it's not that important." But realistically, it isn't in the grand scheme of things. They've got 37 games to make up for it now, and there's not a crop of players I believe in more to do it. To be honest,
yeah. I agree. It's one game. We if we win with a clean sheet on Sunday and a good performance, it all looks different again, and we're going to be Champions League winners next season. And it goes on with. You can never be too high with a win and too low with a loss. Especially with what we have at the moment, we have a solid squad and a really good manager and coach. So you just have to. You can't really tell where you're going to be for the season until after the Christmas break. In any sense in any team. So yeah, you just have to take it step by step, and we've got extra games to play before Christmas as well this year.
yeah,
So that's it's already water under the bridge now. So in terms of the Dougie booking for dissent, I like it. I'm not going to lie. The amount of times I've been to a game and players mouth off to the ref, and I always say I have no sympathy for refs because they don't book players when they have the power to, and now they're being stamped down on to do it. So I'm quite happy to see that because it does get ridiculous when players surround refs. So cutting out at just the small things is a start. But yeah, in terms of positives as well in the squad, Watkins and Diaby I thought were really good with their link up, and Ollie could have scored a couple maybe, and Diaby beautiful finish. Had a really good game in general, like on the ball as well as his movement and his attacking threat. And I'd also add Coutinho to the list of
yeah,
positives because he came on. There wasn't anything special, but he looked like he had something to give in that team, and his link up and his conviction in what he wanted to do. He looked like he was fighting. Whether that's him trying to show off for a move, you don't know, or whether it's him that's devoted to say, Buendia's out for a season now. I want to step up and take my place back and show you why you bought me.
yeah,
So there was positives in that game, far outweighed by negatives. But I think you have to look at the game as a whole because it's easy to look at that and say, we were terrible, worst game I've seen, which it wasn't. You've got to look at the whole package of, there's a lot to sort, there's a lot to not like about it, but there were positives because, we scored a good goal, we had plenty of chances. If Matty Cash puts that goal away
yeah,
and makes 3-2, maybe it's a different game, maybe it's not 5-1, maybe it's 3 or 4-2. It has a sort of different feel to it then.
yeah,
So I'm looking forward to seeing Diaby and Watkins link up again more. I think that's going to be a really threatening front two, and it was. I saw everything I wanted to see from Diaby. Getting into the right areas to score, but on the ball, I thought he was really good. He was strong, quick, intelligent, and the ball stuck to his feet a lot. So He's going to be really fun to watch, isn't he?
Yeah, he's one of those players that every time he touches the ball, you're thinking, oh, he's actually going to do something here. And aside from other players we've had where you're like, oh, how's he going to go here? Again, it was the one move where he had the ball, not even his goal, which again, I think he took brilliantly. It's the one where he's running down the right. He drags 3 Newcastle players out. The commentator was even saying at the time, he's like, oh, I'm surprised he didn't go onto his left there and try and shoot. But no, takes his right foot, picks out a good pass to Watkins, who does snatch at it and it goes wide. But it's those little things where I'm like, oh, he's comfortable doing that as well. So it's one of those things where it gets good. I think 10 years ago, Dan would have been really angry till this week. And it's quite telling that you go on Twitter and a lot of people are very angry. It gives you an outlook as to what maybe the group of, people that you get on Twitter is that, the same people who are just, I saw some very questionable things thrown around about some people in our squad, which I was quite worried about seeing. And then you do just have to remember that Twitter's a wild sort of cesspit. And then you get to this point now where I'm like, oh, there's actually quite a few positives I can take from that.
Yeah.
And, Carragher was calling Gary Neville a bit of a clown for saying that Villa would still finish in the top 6 despite the thumping. And I think to me that sort of shows that even he's aware that there's more beneath the surface than that result. And it wasn't a 5-1 game, like you said. Sir Alex mentioned it, didn't he, on Monday, that it wasn't a fixture where the goals weren't. I don't want to say they're not pretend goals, but do you know what I mean? They're goals where a normal game you don't score those, but when you get a defense that has all but given up, it felt like they get the chances to put away the 2 and what probably could have been 3 or 4 that they should have at the time, as well as the one we gifted. And it's a shame, but it's going to sound really like high and mighty of me, but it's actually quite a nice learning curve, I think, and it's quite a nice reintroduction as to what the Premier League is and what this season's going to be, and a reminder that it's not all going to go our way. And yeah, like you said, it's a season of new rules. It's a season it's a different Premier League year, which I think is quite good. And like you said, I think there's some good changes that have come in. I agree with you. I like the descent rules. I just wish we knew more. I wish we heard more because it was off the ball, and because we didn't see it happen and there was no replays of it. Do you know what I mean? I think, but again, that might just be my pissed up mind that was just really angry because I was like, we've conceded and he's been booked. Why is my life so much pain? But I think the only thing I wanted to suggest was probably maybe if we could stop as a group online of just the pile-ons. I mean, I'm seeing people tagging like Matty Cash and just saying there was horrendous stuff. And it's like, we're all entitled to our opinions. I think me and you would both agree that our entire right side that game was pretty lackluster and empty. But I can always guarantee you they know that. If we can see it, they're full professional footballers, and they've got a very, very good manager in front of them that will be telling them that. And don't get me wrong, I think it's a learning curve for Unai as well. I think it wasn't the 11 that we all probably would have agreed with at the time in terms of positioning. But again, he can't do much about the right back situation. If people want to complain about Cash, we haven't got a right back, fingers crossed, yet. Again, left back, we're losing Moreno. That left side, again, it's different if we have Buendia in the mix. I think he starts instead of Bailey. So, look, onwards and upwards. I mean, it's an exciting time because I believe you've got it just off to your right, a television screen showcasing one half of our potential new arrivals. There is one that's pretty much sealed on. I saw the picture you tweeted earlier of the little sing-song. I'm not going to say you have to give a rendition of the song that you introduced for him, but Nicolo Zaniolo.
Yeah.
Feels right. That felt right.
Yeah.
Maybe because I was too confident saying it. All but done. I mean, he's pictured waiting for a medical with a bloke in all Villa gear. Either he's waiting for his medical or he's just found a very random bloke to sit next to.
Very lost otherwise.
Yeah. Coming in, not as a Buendia replacement. I mean, technically, I guess now he is replacing Buendia if it was to start, but he was linked beforehand, as we all know, because this has dragged on quite a while. But exciting one.
Yeah, very exciting. I can understand. I think there's a few queries around him because obviously he's had, whether it's bad injuries or he's, been forced out of clubs by fans and stuff and all that. And, it's whether he can do it in the Prem. The usual questions that come along with that sort of talent. But
Yeah.
he excites me. And I've been thinking about this today because something about him makes me feel like we're actually finally replacing Grealish after so many years because of the sort of style that he has. He's more physical. He's a physical lad. That's gonna be a nice addition to the squad because you can't push him off the ball easy. The ball can stick to his feet. At Galatasaray, he's started to find his scoring boots. I think he scored 5 in 10. So yeah, improving in that sense now. But it's the whole, he's had his injuries and he's not had a full season, and he's in the headlines for different off the pitch reasons. 24, not quite hit his best yet. Everything about that makes me think. I remember that sort of pre-explosion era for Jack.
Yeah.
That I feel like he could finally sort of replace that. What he gave. It's not exactly the same position, but just what he offers and who he is, if that makes sense. So I think, especially coming in for a loan initially and a
Yeah.
4 month loan fee, and it's reported differently whether it's an option or obligation to buy. Yeah, he should be, I think, announced soon. When he's going to be fit enough to play, I'm not sure because he's got a what injury was it again?
Groin strain, I believe, but that's
Yeah.
what's going around on Twitter again.
I think it was a week or two that he's been out already, and he's close. I think he's been training by himself, and he will be ready soon, and he'll be a good addition. I think we introduce him slowly in a sense, and I just feel like he's going to have a really good impact. I mean, yeah, this sort of signing can go either way, just like any signing. But for what he might offer, I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, it's one of those links that when it came up, I was interested because I'd heard the name, and especially from when he was at Roma, and it was definitely one that I thought, that makes sense because of the age that we're looking at, and like you said, the style that he is. But not only that, I'd like I said, the bit that I'd like the most is quite the shrewdness of the business. I love a loan, I really do. I loved it when we got Ross Barkley on loan. When we got Tammy, Tyrone, all of them on loan. I something about it is I like a try before you buy. And that it's like when you go to a pub and they let you have a taster of the lager on tap. You're like, oh, you know what, you've charmed me. And I'm not saying that it's basically like we might actually have the chance to taste test an even better Peroni before we buy it. And it's an exciting one. It's it's not like for like with Buendia. They're not the same player, but he will probably be filling in for his position when he comes in.
Yeah, I
I
think
think the next one is one that as soon as the link came up, I was like, oh, that makes too much sense. That's it was lazy link. I thought, I don't know if you felt it, but it was like, of course, that's who we're going to get linked with. And it's Acuna from. Sorry, you're gonna have to get. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So yeah, that's a fun one. I mean, he's an adaptable player, isn't he? He can play predominantly a left back, but he can slot into the midfield if he needs to. Age before beauty sometimes, and he's a beautiful man. But I mean, what is it? He's 31 now.
nearly 32, I think, something like that.
So obviously we've got a bit of experience coming in. It does look like there's a possibility that Luca Dean is on his way to Saudi. There was flirtings about it last week. It's propped up again this week, and you'd hesitate to think that we wouldn't start the season with 3 left backs. So again, I think a couple of people have been almost quite. It's actually more. This one's a bit more on people's minds as to whether it's a good deal or not, rather than the Zaniolo one, because I think a lot of people are worried about his injury record, but people are very worried about Acuna's age. I'm not personally, but I feel like you quite like this signing, don't you, James?
I do. I really like it in the I probably come across that I like every signing, but I always try and look for the
Yeah,
positivity in every signing. I also think that everything that we've looked at recently sort of makes sense in some sort of way. And when you're looking at if we can offload Luca Dean to what looks like the Saudis, if they pay a decent fee, I think Acuna's looking like he'll be around 10 to 15, between 10 and 15 million euros. And he'll also probably be on half of what Luca Dean was
yeah,
on in salary. Yeah, he's a little bit older, and I can understand what people's sort of gripe is with it sometimes. But with that age, you're bringing in a World Cup winner, a European Cup winner, and potentially a Super Cup winner at the moment while they're winning against City. And also, he's played with Diego Carlos before, and he's obviously an international teammate of Emi. I
yeah,
think a lot of it makes sense, and I think everyone that comes in needs to be a good footballer all round. Like if you give him the ball, he's not panicking. And I mean, I'm seeing that tonight from him playing. I've seen that from him for Argentina and for Sevilla before. He's just a really cool customer. So I think it's just a good deal. Of course, I think I've seen a couple of tweets, and we obviously Sonny in the group chat saying about how Sevilla replacing him with Sosa, who's a really good left back and about 7 years younger. But I think we are looking at the here and now. And personally, it's all opinion based, but I think Acuna's better than Sosa, just about maybe. And they're also different players. Yeah, you want to keep that sort of pathway open for the potential of youth coming through as well, which isn't guaranteed. But giving them a chance is not a gamble with a fee like a 24, 25-year-old for 20 million is. So I really like the deal. It sounds like it wants to be wrapped up soon. I
mm,
feel like we could say goodbye today, and I think Fabrizio said that we want to try and get it sorted tomorrow. And it sounds like Dean's really close to leaving as well. So if that's
yeah,
the case, they're really wanting to get him in quick because he's going to be the starting left back if
yeah,
that's what happens. And you want to get a training session in. I mean, he's a really good player. He'll slot in comfortably. He wouldn't feel like out of place, I don't think. But he's got to get up to speed with the league and with the team as well. It'll just be really interesting to see how quick this gets done. I presume that both Zaniolo and Acuna could be announced within the next 2 days. So
yeah,
yeah, really interesting business. I think it's boxing smart with the sort of
mm,
fee and what sounds like it'd be a 2 or 3 year deal with Acuna as well. It does feel like it's I think they sort of oppose each other in age as well, because obviously Zaniolo's a few years
yeah.
outside of the peak, and Acuna's coming towards the end of it. I think he's still in his peak personally. He's playing really well still. So yeah, I don't worry about either of them on paper. Whatever they bring, you can't guarantee. But looking at it all round, I think two solid signings. Nothing to sing and dance about in that sense, but
No,
two solid signings that under Emery you feel like they could be really top players.
sort of get that feeling with everyone, don't you? Is the problem with the Unai Emery signing to me is never sort of going to have my nose turned up at it. And yeah, like you said with the Sosa link, it would have been nice, but again, how are you going to convince someone that they're going to come in, then Moreno's going to get back fit, and then they're going to be fighting. Moreno is our starting left back. I mean, as much as I'd love the idea of us buying someone that's even better than Moreno, he's earned his right to be our starting left back, and it does open up the conversation, doesn't it, as to where the club can go for the next, 15 days left as of today of the transfer window being open. I mean, I think if you asked a lot of people, most Villa fans would suggest that we've got like 3 gaps that still need filling. I personally have drifted away. I think we spoke about it last week for our preseason predictions. I've definitely drifted away from the idea of having a new backup goalkeeper, mainly because I think that our funds could be looked at somewhere else, especially now with the sort of glaring hole that we had from Saturday. I feel like I don't think we end the window without signing a new right back, or at least someone that can play there. But you mentioned earlier on in the writers' chat that I don't think that we will go for a centre back. I actually agree with you on that. I do think that Chambers is trusted to to fill in there. And I think we spoke about it as well at the end of the pre-seasons. I actually do quite like Callum Chambers, and I actually think he's never really put that much of a foot wrong. A couple of weird mistakes here and there, but ones that you'd see from a player that doesn't get the game time that you kind of need to play in those positions all the time. But definitely probably could see definitely not the way you should be speaking, Dan. But definitely probably could see at that right side get an investment in over the next few weeks. Surprised that the Tyler Adams move hasn't progressed. That's sort of not nailed, but pardon?
There's a lot of clubs involved in that sort of deal, though.
That's what I mean. It's strange, isn't it? Because you had Chelsea involved. I mean, you could either say Chelsea probably won't now, or they probably will, because they seem to be on a roll. And I think Todd Bowley's sort of just gone on Football Manager and just continuously put the little rewards you can put on where you just up the transfer budget. He's got no work permits selected and transfer over and over again. So, and Bournemouth, I believe, were in for him as well. So that was one that we spoke about not too long ago. Not the signing that it was like, oh, we definitely need him, but everyone loves that idea, don't they?
Yeah, it would be solid business, that sort of one. I think the fact that he can play right back, the fact that he can play midfield, I think he's played as a wide midfielder as well. He fits literally everything, that right-hand side that we sort of look for, and he's athletic. He's not a high-risk passer, he's not a high-risk player, really, but he's one of those that you need some in your squad that are specialists in just winning the ball and passing it on and sort of dictating a tempo, in a sense of they don't want to go forwards every time like some of the players do. So, but I think for me, the right back will be an interesting one. I've still got my eyes on Brennan Johnson. It depends on the price, but I could really see that happening, because between him and Zaniolo, they can both play on the right or they can both play centrally. And I think that's what makes it really interesting. So, I think, who is it that's involved with him still? Who bid for him? Was it It was Brentford, wasn't it? Brentford were in for him.
Johnson, yeah.
It'll be interesting to see whether, we're waiting to see what his valuation is and then strike then, maybe. Because I think that there is a really long-term interest in him. So we'll see. But there's still a good feeling around him.
Definitely. It's just it's weird. It's a weird time, because you get the ones that are sort of coming up definitely for this week. Definitely, okay, the Acuna one's not been guaranteed like the Zaniolo one seems, but it does look all but nailed on. It's got the Fabrizio nod towards it. We haven't even touched on the Jack Harrison saga from Sunday night, wasn't it? Was it Sunday? Yeah, it was Sunday.
Yeah.
That was fun, where we were signing him, is injured for 5 to 6 weeks, and then Ornstein said we were never signing him, we were just interested, which was fun, because it looked, I think it was a good, it looked like a good piece of business until the injury cropped up, and I think probably, it sounds quite arrogant to say it, but it feels like the club were probably aware of that and then maybe distance themselves a bit and were like, oh, well, maybe put your eggs in more baskets, and then this is one that you could come back to. And then Everton went for it, and it didn't materialize in the end, but it was a signal towards the type of player that we're looking at, and that looked more to me than the direct replacement for Buendia than the Zaniolo one was. So that's interesting to see that the business isn't done in that area of the pitch. And we both know that we both quite would like Brennan Johnson in Claret and Blue. Full transparency, he's the one that I put all effort into signing on Football Manager every time now. Him and Beto,
Beto is just reliable. But anyway, before we get on to Football Manager, that Jack Harrison thing was funny. We went from rumoured to maybe signing him, and then he was signed, and then he wasn't, and then he was at Everton. It was really weird. Within like 30 to 40 minutes, it was a funny roller coaster. Actually, it brightened up the mood a bit after a bad result. It was quite funny. yeah, it does sort of show that intent that we're still bringing in attacking options, and I think that was always sort of possible because they said most journalists were saying that a couple of forward options, and obviously now with DRB, Zaniolo coming in and still wanting one more, I feel like we're going to be stacked in that area, and then with Acuna possibly coming in, and then maybe a right back if we get maybe. I think we're going to have to shift players. That's the thing as well.
Yeah,
I've got like the likes of House and Bertrand Traore, etc., that are still on the books, and getting some of those off would be a big help. So we're just gonna have to see. It could be a really busy couple of weeks. It could be a moderately busy couple of weeks. So yeah, I think in between, obviously, hopefully getting some points on the board and qualifying for the group stages of the Conference League, I think there's some business to be done still.
definitely. Well, we'll move on to our little preview for Everton at home Sunday 2:00 kickoff live on Sky Sports. Which, by the way, I want to put out. I know he's been waiting to hear from me. Peter Drury is a great addition to have back on our screens, and I thoroughly enjoyed hearing from him. And again, I quite enjoyed seeing the offside lines being drawn on Sunday and Monday. Fingers crossed we get that this weekend. So I'd like to see them for onside. It wasn't me saying like it's not a conspiracy or anything, because it went through all three teams. It just seemed like they sort of forgot on Saturday. I just like it. I think it's good to see what they're seeing. And
kind of done with VAR at the moment. Just, it's not even the technology's fault. It's just if you're getting a second chance to view something and you're getting it wrong, what's the point? Like, honestly, what's the point in it? I've been a fan of VAR and trying to implement it right for a long time, but the Wolves United game the other night, if you get a penalty that blatant, you miss it, first hand as the ref.
which is
And then
fine.
you have the chance to send your ref to the screens, and you look at that and think, that's not a pen. Then what's the point? Honestly, what's the point? The standard of refereeing is either really bad or it is corrupt. And corrupt sounds wild, but then you just look at the so many different examples and you think, how much more? It's ridiculous.
Look, I'm not going to say that there's a possible chance that Manchester United are favoured. But one of the biggest things you get booked for in football is celebrating in the crowd. Varane wasn't booked. But again, all you got to do is check the club badge. The problem with VAR is like you said, it's such a sound system, and the offside system works, which I like. And I think the offside rule is good because I think they're giving a bit more leniency towards attackers now, which again is always good news because we actually want to see goals and we want to see things happen. And but again, it's just the implementation. It's the way that it's put in and it's the way that it's put across. And you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make correct VAR decisions, unfortunately. And maybe it's just a big old conspiracy so that eventually we all get VAR gotten rid of and go back to having wrong decisions and the refs being able to cover up for it. Who knows? Maybe that's a good conspiracy too. Like those iceberg videos. You ever watch one of those on, like the footballing iceberg? And it's like conspiracy theories and they get progressively worse. Oh, mate, treat yourself to it. They are great. Search up anything. I guarantee you there's an iceberg about it. Usually about an hour long. I can sit there for ages. Vize does one. But the Burnley fan, a brilliant one about pretty much everything. He's done a few. They're good fun, but it feels like it belongs there. But anyway, Everton at home. I'm thoroughly looking forward to it, to be honest with you. Everton coming off the back of a loss, which I think a lot of their fans were expecting. I don't know if you saw the stat, but I think they've got an 8% approval rating for their board that came out for the numbers that were up. We were on 92, I believe. So a club that's in high hopes coming off of a bad result and a club that's in no hopes coming off of a bad result. It's got the makings of what should be a great time for Villa to bounce back, doesn't it, James?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't watched the Everton game from last weekend, but apparently they played really well and the result didn't do them justice. But, I think at home, I think you kind of know what you're going to get from Everton. They're going to be efficient and effective and direct and tough to break down. But I think we should have the quality to score goals against them.
Yeah,
For me, it is, again, Sonny was in the group chat saying it earlier about if Calvert-Lewin's playing, he's a threat, especially, he's not slow. He's very physical. I think he could cause us problems, and how we deal with that will be interesting. And how we set up the high line, whether it'll be a little bit deeper or not, is going to be interesting.
definitely.
But yeah, I'm not sure what to expect again, but I'd have to predict a win. I think I have to back the boys for a big reaction, and I think that they know they need one. Emery will bring one out of him, and I think the crowd should be up for this. Forget last weekend's result. First game of the season back at Villa Park in what is looking like an exciting season still. I think that everything should align for 3 points. And it will be interesting to see the team sheet because I don't think I can call it. I think any of us really could call who he's going to go with and who's going to be in the squad and stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it as you say, and I'm hoping it's a sunny day, and I'm hoping it's just one of those days that you have really good memories of. I mean, I'm not going to be able to go to the game, but sort of those relieving games in the season that sort of get you on track. So hopefully it's one of those. I'd love us to score a few, but it's not going to be easy.
No, no. Everton are a strong team. A Dyche team's always going to be a strong team to go up against, especially defensively. And like you said, that it's weird because you come off the back of losing 5-1, and you're thinking about all the ways that we need to improve. We just need to basically turn up this time. If we implement our style of play, what we lost, I want to say under Emery, it was 2 times at home in the league.
Leicester, Arsenal.
I can't think of anyone else we lost to at home because we did not lose many games under Unai Emery last year.
No, because Stevenage was in the cup.
Yeah.
No, I can't think of any others. Yeah, we were solid at home.
Yeah, and the performances backed him up as well, didn't they? Every time we showed up when we needed to, especially last game of the season. So if that helps, I think definitely. I know that Unai can get them playing at home, and the foundations are so there, and the ideology that we're playing with is just there. Like you said, you got a couple areas on the pitch where you do have some worries, especially playing against an Everton team, but you just got to think that the quality shines through and the ability behind the players does. And selection wise, you can't change too much. I mean, again, it depends with how these incomings go and the extent to Zaniolo's injury. If he's registered tomorrow, he's obviously probably not even going to be on the bench you'd expect on Sunday.
Yeah.
Signs this week. Again, you just don't. It all depends on registry with players now, doesn't it? Sometimes you can see players get registered, they're playing 2 days later. So I think yeah, you're right. Predictions are hard this time. It's I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. It's one of my least favorite. I think when we did the ratings last time, this might be my least favorite fixture time.
It's a Dyche team.
Yeah, a Dyche team, crap time for a game, but a buzz in Villa Park, I reckon. And I'd say 2-0 would be my prediction to Villa.
I'm going to go 2-1 again, just like last season, but more of a commanding performance than last season's, and they're going to just nick a goal late on and just like last time and make it squeaky bum time. But
ruffle the fans.
I think it's going to be one of those where we deserve to win, we do win, and it'll be a close score line, which could have been more to us.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see a couple more cameos come out. I would like to see a bit more of Coutinho. Like I say, he was quite bright when he came on. It's gone quiet on his account on whether we might we might lose him or not. And if that's the case, then seeing Philogene as well would be great, especially at home. Rocking around. I mean, that's basically like what you were dreaming of last year, I think, is seeing him play at home under Unai Emery. So
Lovely that would.
it'll be great. And again, everyone watching this who is going, do just enjoy it again. Just enjoy being back. You know, we've got another long season up ahead. You've got even more games coming your way. So, just back the boys. It's first of many Sunday 2:00. So let's start getting used to them, I guess, because it might become my favourite time because we might end up having a great record for them. Who knows?
It'd be nice, wouldn't it?
It would. Now on to the final section of the podcast. It is 3 points for Villa. 3 points for Villa. Coming up with a theme tune slowly. I'm thinking about it. Obviously, this week you've got a point from James, a point from me, and a point from AVFC Faithful. So, James, please go with the draw. 0.1 for Aston Villa Football Club.
I think how we defend corners has been something that's on my mind. I think for quite a while we look really vulnerable, and again against Newcastle we did. I think you can drag us around, and the interesting thing is, I think the common thing when you hear from like tactics accounts that it's not always the set piece coach that deals with the defensive set piece sort of. What would you call it? Organisation. So it'd be really interesting to see if we do, solve that soon, or whether that's just something that we're going to persist with. Because especially with Mings out, who's the big man to clear most of those crosses in, whether it's a first ball or whether it's from a short corner and then working the angle. So if you watch that Newcastle game back, when they had corners, we just looked really shaky. And every time we concede a corner, I feel really nervous around it. Like, I think that's the worst part of our game, to be honest. We've got weak links in the squad and stuff, but in terms of our overall game, I think that's where you can really exploit us.
That's a great first point in there. Yeah, it's one you don't hear very often, but yeah, you're right. Every time we do concede a corner, I'm shaking, which is strange because the statistics on corners scored is really low, but it feels really high when it's against us. My point, my 1 point for Villa, is actually these.
No.
Why do they look so bad when we play in them? I spoke about this before. I don't mind the kit that much this year. I bought it because it's this year's kit, and I've got this weird addiction with football kits. I do need to stop. But again, they become this very strange sort of sopping mess around 40 minutes into a game. Hopefully, I've remembered to put a picture up of the state of one of our players wearing it. And I believe Dan Bardell did a quick test wearing the pro version at home. But my word, I can't understand it because I understand it's a sweaty game, right? Trust me, I'm sweating thinking about playing football, let alone playing it. But my word, look. I understand it's my point, but you must agree they are horrendous.
They look like they've jumped in swimming pools. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's a tactic. You know how they used to basically lube up Adama so no one can grab onto it? Maybe that's what it is. If you try and grab the shirt, your hand's going to slip off because they've sweated 3,000 litres in the first 20 minutes. It just looks ridiculous. It looks painted on sometimes.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, well, like I say, hopefully it'll have flashed up here, but my God, just awful. But again, I'm not going to jump on the hate wagon for Castro because I feel like everyone's heard it, but I just don't get it. I just don't get it. It looks so bad. And yeah, like it looks like they go for their halftime drink and they just go, there you are, that's just not the gesture I should be doing on video camera. But if you are listening to the audio, it's basically like I've just thrown a bottle all over me. Picture that, okay? Just the bottle. And then we've got from AVFC Faithful, not the podcast, but AVFC Faithful as a brand in total. Their 1 point for Villa is a point for you. You've got a chance to win a home or away kit, your choice. Just by going on Twitter, all you got to do is retweet the tweet that's on at AVFC Faithful. And this will pop up on screen, so you'll see the tweet. And also follow AVFC Faithful themselves and at AVFC Faithful Pod, which is our beautiful faces. Look, I've got some troubling news. The podcast account, it's a year old. It's on 800 followers at the moment. My personal Twitter account is shouldn't be, but I think it's about 10 years old now. And the podcast account has now nearly doubled my following count. So if you do just have a chance to just follow someone else as well, the links will all be in the bio. Make sure you do head over to that tweet and just get yourself entered, because I mean, you don't have to pay, you don't have to even comment. Literally, all you've got to do is follow and retweet a tweet. And we will be announcing the winner on this very podcast, week commencing 4th of September. So look, you've got to be in it to win it, haven't you, James? And we're going to be in it to win it on Sunday, I think.
We are. We're going to be in it to win it all this season. Nothing's changed. We're winning the lot. The double's on.
The double's still on, yeah. Of course it is. And look, if you did manage to miss it, make sure you check out last week's episode, the pre-season predictions that we did. There's some great predictions through there. We predicted everything from Villa to Champions League. Villa finishing in the Champions League. Who knows? Maybe we said it, maybe we didn't. You can only find out by going on that podcast. But yeah, that's about it. Everything for this week. I can't wait to watch Villa again on Sunday. It makes no sense. We lose 5-1 and I want to watch us. But Donu and I, you've done things to me. And it'll be great to see it's great to see the newcomers come in, and who knows, might get a welcoming on the pitch for the new arrivals. That'd be good fun.
That'd be nice. Yeah, it would be nice to see that unveiling.
Don't see it very often. Well, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you do like, subscribe, and tickle the bell just to ensure that you don't miss another video from the AVFC Faithful. We've got another podcast coming out shortly as well. An interview we did with Just 14, both the movie and the book. The author from the book himself came on and described everything coming up with the movie, hopefully releasing it next year. So make sure you check that out as well. Hit the notification bell. You will not miss the upload. And until next time, up the Villa.
Up the Villa.